Hello and welcome to this new episode of The New Journey, a show by Settlefast that inspires and empowers new Canadians through conversations, stories, and insights. Today we have a special guest, Alexander Emesh from Public Services and Procurement Canada, to share insights about doing business with Canada. One of the biggest challenges that every founder and entrepreneur face is, learning more about the opportunities that exist with the Government of Canada. It may be very daunting for founders to identify those opportunities and navigate through the complete process. And to share more light on this process, how it works, we have Alexander Emesh. Thanks for joining us, Alexander.
Well, thank you, Gurwinder, for having me, and thank you, Settlefast, for providing us this opportunity to discuss federal opportunities on procurement and innovation with Public Service and Procurement Canada.
Just to begin with, can you tell us more about your role to our audience who is joining us from all parts of Canada and across the globe?
Before we begin, I do want to say that I'm thankful that we're here on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia. It is a beautiful place in the world for all those who are joining us. My role with Procurement Assistance Canada, which is the branch for Public Service and Procurement Canada, my role is to provide education, assistance, and awareness of federal contracting opportunities.
Perfect. And for innovators who are working on solutions, to benefit the communities in Canada, how can they identify these kind of opportunities? Is there a platform? Is there a resource that is available to them?
There are a couple of resources available. So the first thing I would do if I were in your shoes is I would go online and I would type in buyandsell.gc.ca. That is the authoritative source of federal procurement, and you'll see that there are active tenders published daily with all sorts of different lines of business. So federal government buys a lot of different goods and services, and majority of those are awarded to small and medium enterprises.
Okay. And I know, from my experience with the Government of Canada on some of these projects where, we collaborated in the past here, sometimes, from the outside world, if somebody is not aware of the programs and the process, it is very challenging. It seems very challenging. Can you share some light on the process behind, the tendering process, and how can somebody, make sure that they are doing the right things? And what is the Government of Canada looking for when they're, thinking of partnering with small and medium enterprises to do business with?
Okay, so that's a great question. So how does the tendering process work? So there are two kind of strategies you can think of. The first is for low dollar value procurement.
Okay.
And that is going to be roughly under $25,000 for goods and around $40,000 for services. Mm-hmm. For that, departments, branches have the ability to enter into sole source or non-competitive processes with different small and medium enterprises. So if you're just trying to sell, $500 worth of goods or services, you can actually reach out to different client departments using the Government Electronic Directory Service. Mm-hmm. And it's like the Yellow Book of Government. It has all of our names on it. Now, in regards to competitive, which is going to be over $25,000 for goods and over $40,000 for services, all of that is posted on the Buy and Sell website. Okay. And for that, you'd be, just to put it in the most layman's terms possible, you're going to be clicking on an active tender that really meets what you can do. You're going to go over to that the RFP document or one of the RFSAs, RFSO documents. I'll get into that a little bit. And you're going to open it up and you're going to review some of the mandatories, what they're actually looking for. And it's going to actually give you all of those steps within that PDF. Okay. So it'll tell you how it should look when it's turned in, the evaluation criteria for it, how to submit it, if you have questions on a technical nature, who to talk to. All of that is going to be on that RFP document. So largely one of the things that we do is we try to get small and medium enterprises and innovators just on that website. Okay. And I'm going to actually add in a third story, Gurwinder, if you don't mind too.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
So we talked about low dollar value, where you're kind of going through yellow books, you're doing some research, and you're advertising yourself to different departments, sending emails out. We talked about competitive, which is you're going to be turning in a bid. You're going to be following all those instructions. Okay. And lastly, I'm going to talk about some kind of innovative ways that government goes about procurement. So I'm here largely to talk as well about is the Innovation for Defense Excellence and Security. It's called IDEAS for short. Mm-hmm. It's the Department of National Defense and Canadian Armed Forces Access to Innovation Program. So this is a different tree if we're going down that route. So what it does is it transforms defense and security challenges faced by various partners of our military, and they're looking for innovative solutions to improve Canada's defense capability. So that website, if you're on your Google search, type in IDEAS, then space, then Department of National Defense, and you should see a link pop up for that. And really, IDEAS is open to all Canadian innovators, from academics to garage innovators. It really is looking for non-traditional sources to innovate. Okay.
And when you talked about IDEAS, what kind of projects could be submitted, or what kind of startups could apply to that? Is it anybody who has an idea or a product or a solution that can benefit the national defense systems or capabilities, or is it, additional capabilities, for example, that could be added through their solutions and products?
So procurement in general is about, the departments have already recognized their challenge. Okay. So if you have like a great death ray, for example, the military is not saying it needs that, and it wouldn't be interested in that, at least through the IDEAS programs or the methods I talked about. Okay. So they are going to actually tell you what their challenge is, and they're looking for ways to solve it. Now, for IDEAS, it's very unique. It's an innovative way of going about procurement, and there's around 5 different elements. Okay. So some of them are looking for just a white paper in which they're going to coach you along the way and provide funding for, and then eventually hopefully get you to that completed product, which they won't take your IP for. They're just going to license to use it. You get to keep your IP and you can commercialize it as you see fit. So that's one way it goes about it. But there's also sandboxes, which is an opportunity to test and demonstrate your solution. So you already have the completed product. You just try to show the military that you can do this. And you want to have some of those experts with you while you do that. So that's also available as too. And then there's test drive, for example, too, which is when you already do kind of have mostly completed product, and it's looking just to kind of finish out that technology readiness level. As of right now, and these are always posted on like every couple months or quarterly. Right now, they have a sandbox challenge. And what they're looking for is countering unmanned aerial systems. Okay. So it's looking at ways to detect and defeat varieties of drone technologies. So you could do it by jamming, or you could do it by physically knocking out of these drones out of the sky. So it's looking for kind of that next level prototype that can solve that challenge. Now, in the past, talking about some of these different challenges, we've had a pop-up city, which was a challenge to create pretty much a remote community for Canadian Armed Forces that's green and kind of carbon neutral. And they were looking for a variety of different solutions in order to do that, whether that be water recycling or better ways for fabrics on tents to absorb heat so you don't have to have as much heaters. There's also another one, too, in the past, which was looking for HR strategies to help recruit and retain women in the Canadian Armed Forces. So IDEAS is pretty, it's not like bullets and guns. It's going to be all over the place. And what we recommend is just subscribing to that web feed that they have on their website and see if a challenge comes up that fits your line of business or something that you can do.
Awesome. So you talked about IDEAS, that is for the national defense, for the government of Canada. What kind of other challenges one can see, So if I'm a startup founder based in, Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I'm working on a product that can benefit the lives of Canadian citizens through, my solution, Is there anything like that for founders like me, or are there going to be challenges like that?
So is the product finished?
It could be finished, yeah. I'm just throwing it out an example.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when it comes to regular procurement, the competitive one on the buy and sell website, they're going to list out what they're looking for.
Okay.
So you can respond to that. Let's just say your product is, you're reading a tender. It's asking for, I'm just going to give an example here, like immigration services, some innovations with that. Your product might not perfectly be that, but you can actually, you feel you're competitive enough to bid and explain how you would adjust your product to meet that. That's one way. So you're going to really need to look for existing opportunities that are out there on the buy and sell website and bid for them. If you don't see any existing opportunities, you got some real, strong innovation. There are some innovative departments that like ISC and Ideas, for example, that you might be able to find a challenge already open for that. If you still don't find any of that, you can reach out to departments using the government directory service, the GEDS I mentioned earlier, and just kind of advertise and educate them about the potential need for your product or service to be either a tender or a pilot or whatever it would be.
Okay. Well, that's
a guarantee on that last piece, though, right? Because you're just asking folks, "Hey, I have this, a great idea, and it's almost finished. Are you interested?" Right? There's no guarantee on that.
For sure. And for innovators, who are working on the solutions, what are some of the key things that they should keep in mind, before they're applying? So whether it is a challenge-based, or whether it is a bid-based, opportunity, what are some of the key things that should be always looking for so that they are ready whenever there is an opportunity that they could apply for?
So one of the key things that you want to be looking for is those mandatory requirements.
Okay.
So if it's posted on Buy and Sell's website, it's going to say talk about the mandatory requirements of that specific tender. So that's something you always want to draw your eyes to. If it says you need 5 years in business and you're at 2, you can email the contracting authority and say, hey, I don't agree with this being 5 years. Is it possible to amend the contract to 2? That's a possibility, but you're really going to want to look at those mandatories. The second thing is the due date. If it's due tomorrow and it's going to take you're going to have to really read some documents within time for that. That's another important thing. Those due dates are pretty set in stone. You cannot turn in anything after that due date. The contract could be amended, for example, and extend that due date. So you have awareness on that. Another thing I would say as well for innovators or entrepreneurs is on the buy and sell website, you can actually save search results.
Okay.
And what that'll do is you can actually subscribe to like a notification. So let's just say you're specifically in the aerospace industry. You type that in the search engine. You can actually notify yourself using the little email subscribe button to send you emails out every time a new tender is posted with that specific search result. Yeah.
And are there any requirements? And this is just basically because we are working with a lot of startups and founders, who could be new to Canada and who could be, just finding those opportunities. So is there any requirement for having the business registered? Because sometimes, they might not have the business registered yet, but they might have a solution that they're working on in the background as a side hustle. So is that something that you think is going to be mandatory for founders and innovators?
I will do my best to answer your question and kind of explain why there are some conditions involved.
Sure.
So in order to receive payment from like a competitive procurement, you do need to register with the supplier registration system. It's called SRI.
Okay.
You'll get a procurement business number. So you do need to have a CRA information in order to get a procurement business number. If you're international, for example, you can call the CRA and I believe you can fill out a form and turn it in. I've talked to American companies that have done that. There also can sometimes be Canadian content requirements in specific tenders. And that's kind of the importance of pulling up that PDF and making sure you're reading everything and all those mandatories. It's not often, but you might see a Canadian content requirement.
Okay.
But that's when it comes to competitive procurement. If we're talking about ideas is open to everyone. So there isn't those type of, from my understanding, those type of requirements that I'm talking about, Canadian content or a PBN. But I would, if you're interested in doing business in Canada, I think it would be to your benefit, of course, to register with CRA and get that procurement business number from our side of things, so that way we can actually pay you.
Okay, that makes sense, and it's always good to get paid when you're doing the work.
Exactly.
So definitely something that our audience should consider. Can you also share, the kind of opportunities? We talked about ideas. We talked about, the other opportunities that exist. Can you talk about some of the industries, that these challenges could apply to, or, some of the industries or sectors where the products or solutions are required?
So that's a hard one, because it's rare that we don't buy something. We buy all sorts of goods and services. We like to play a game trying to find out what we don't buy. Someone said, "Oh, I'm a barber. There's no way you folks provide barber services." And sure enough, we go on buy and sell. We type in barber, and a bunch of prison contracts because inmates need their haircuts came up. Another person said, "Oh, I'm in like nail, what's it called? Like kind of beauty stuff, like nail polish, all that." She thought there's no way there's going to be a contract. Sure enough. Corrections Canada had a contract looking to teach inmates how to do esthetician stuff. So you'd be really surprised about how much we do buy. Okay.
So it's always beneficial to have a look at the current opportunities, because as you mentioned, I had no idea that, haircuts, or somebody with experience in haircuts or nail art or, nail polishing would be, looking at opportunities through the government of Canada.
And sandwiches too. You'd be surprised how many sandwiches we buy. Canadian forces, they're out in field. They're going to need those hot meals. So,
No, that's really good to know, because when we talk about innovation, we sometimes get ourselves blindsided, with maybe just the tech component or with the science component. But as a startup founder or as an innovator, you could be doing anything. You could be in any of these sectors. So thanks for sharing that. I had absolutely no idea that you will have opportunities like that.
Can I add on a story too? Because I think this will be relative.
Okay.
So I was talking to a client who specialized in this kind of additive you add into fuel to make it more green.
Okay.
And when he was looking at contracts, he never could find anything purchasing this specific, additive, because it was innovative and government didn't even know it existed.
Yeah.
So what he ended up doing, what his strategy was when we worked together, was instead of finding out a federal opportunity to be a prime contractor, he decided to review archived tenders, which are all going to be on the website, past contracts for who won, big ship refits. So like if a ship's getting refit, they're going to need ropes, they're going to need, all sorts of things. And what he did was he went on, he leveraged our services to find subcontracting opportunities. So he had that, name of the company who won, how much it was for, the time, and, what the requirements were. And he would just go advertise, "Hey, I saw you won this big, ship refit. By the way, if you use my product, it's cheaper and it's more green." And that was his strategy. To find opportunities when we weren't looking for his specific line of business. He just leveraged our services to find other businesses he could sell to. So that's another way of going about it as well.
Okay. And those kind of information pieces, the archives, they are available for public access?
100%.
Okay.
So as long as it's not something high security, you'll see it on the awarded section on the buy and sell website.
Okay. And what are some of the other resources that are available in terms of, if somebody is looking to, submit their tender or, apply for an opportunity that is currently existing? Do you provide any consulting services through, maybe an account manager or, or somebody who they could speak with
So that's a really good question. So if you're not looking for consulting, but you're looking for education, awareness, and assistance, my office would be happy to help you with that. If it's something really technical on a specific tender notice, there's a contracting authority email address. You can actually just email them and ask them that specific question. But when it comes to writing your bid or those type of consulting things, we cannot interfere in that process. So federal government can't help them write a bid. We're not your consultant. We can't provide those type of services. We can just educate, provide awareness and assistance. But when it comes to actually submitting that type of stuff would be unfair for us to be involved in. You can go in the private sector and look for technical writers if you're having trouble with a bid, writing up bids. You can do that on your own side, but we're not going to be able to recommend anyone for that.
Okay. And based on your experience, working with the Procurement Services Canada, what do you see as some of the reasons why people are unsuccessful, in their bids and in their strategies when they are applying for, the opportunities?
What a great question. So why are most businesses unsuccessful in it? It would be they didn't review the mandatory requirements.
Okay.
So remember I said, if it says, hey, you need 5 years of business, it's going to be really clear on the mandatory requirement section. And you submit it, and it's a brilliant bid. It's so competitive. But you're 3 years, and you didn't ask the contracting authority if there could be any type of amendment on that. It's going to be non-responsive. Okay. But if that does happen, so I'm going to give some advice here too. If you're awarded a contract or you weren't deemed not competitive or unresponsive, there's a process called a debriefing. Okay. And so it's going to tell you how the time frame of that in that RFP document. But I really recommend it. What a debriefing is an opportunity to sit down with that procurement officer, whether it's the phone or the internet, and just kind of say, hey, where did my bid go right? Where did it go wrong? Okay. If you won it, why did I win? Right? Those type of questions. And you'll get some good feedback like, hey, you did so well on all this. You just really didn't write properly on this part. We couldn't give you enough points. Okay. It's a very fair process. It's a whole evaluation team is reviewing your bid, and they're trying to make consensus at the end of it. So regardless if you win or lose, the debriefing can be a great tool to help you understand and improve for the next opportunity.
Okay. No, that's always good to know, to have that kind of opportunity to, speak with the evaluators and find out, what are the areas of improvement, I would say, instead of calling it as a failure, what were the areas of improvement, what you learn from the current opportunities, and how to be successful and, get all the, do all the right things basically for your next bid.
And let me add something on that too. So when you're doing a debriefing, don't go into it argumentative. If you feel like something was really wrong in it, depending on the dollar value, you could talk to a procurement ombudsman or the Canadian International Tribunal. I may say that word wrong there at the end. But there are methods for if there's like a conflict or something more serious. But the debriefing purpose is literally just to get yourself some more education on your process.
Okay, no, that's good to know. Yeah, and what advice would you have, for founders? Because one of the common things that we have heard from founders and innovators is that, hey, I don't have time, to apply for a bid because it takes too much of a time, and it is a big hassle. Maybe even if it is not a big hassle, this is a common perception, while working with any government body, that it is going to take so much amount of time, it is going to suck the time out of our lives, and especially for, startups and, small businesses, they might not have all the resources, to, or they would think that they would not have all the resources to apply for, this bid or the opportunity successfully, because it will take, so much of the resources. So could you please elaborate on that?
I will, happily. Okay, so for ideas, which is that third branch we talked about, it's a lot easier to submit an application. I've heard it takes around half a day. Oh. Now, when it comes to RFPs, that type of feedback we're very aware of, because a lot of the big companies, they actually have branches or so within them that literally all their job is to write technical and submit bids, right? And so if you're an entrepreneur, you really have to kind of make that business call yourself. Like if you're looking through a tender and it really feels like a good fit, you meet all those mandatories, the due date's enough time, you feel you're competitive too. You're like, I feel like I'm, then, you do what you want. You have to make your own business decision. But what you're saying is accurate. It could be more, the process is fair, open, and transparent. And because it's government, there's different standards that we have as opposed to a private entity. So I always recommend that scenario where it's a perfect opportunity, you're competitive, get yourself a big cup of coffee, print out those documents, get a highlighter out, and just start going over it and take your time. Make that call. Hey, is this worth it for me to bid or not? But I would say that the SMEs I've talked to who are successful don't have those technical writers, don't have that bid evaluation team, or they're project managers for it. They manage to do it themselves and were successful. So just give yourself a break, take a deep breath, and do your best if you're interested.
Okay. Perfect. No, I think that is a good summary of how to go about it. And lastly, towards the end of this conversation, are there any videos or tutorials available that somebody could access to? And because what we're going to do is maybe, at the end of this conversation, we'll also put down in our description in the blog post and provide some resources, as you mentioned, by the website links, any video tutorials or anything that we could share with our audience to better support them in this journey.
So our partners like yourself have posted our presentations with them on YouTube. You may be able to find that information as well. Okay. I just want to elaborate here a little bit too, is information changes, policies update, new things come out. Okay. So we always kind of recommend going to the most recent presentation is going to give you the most new and up-to-date information. Yeah. If you pull up something from 7 years ago, things could have changed. Mm-hmm. So just have a bit of awareness there. But I'll happily work with you, Gurwinder, to provide those links. We have seminar notes that actually are live updated that they can go through at their own convenience. You can also reach out to me as well. Assuming you're in the Pacific area, you can just send me an email and I'll be happy to have a one-on-one chat with you. But yeah, that would be my answer for that question.
Awesome. No, I think thanks for sharing that, and I'll be sure to get in touch with you after this conversation and get all the links that could help and benefit the founders and innovators here as well. Well, this was a great conversation, Alexander. I'm thankful to you to have this opportunity to speak with you, to learn more about what do you do and how can innovators, small business owners, and entrepreneurs find opportunities that they're working on and, find a market for their ideas, find the right solutions and right channels, to better distribute their ideas throughout Canada. It has been wonderful speaking with you, Alexander. Thank you for this opportunity.
Gurwinder, thank you for the opportunity to come speak to your cohort and the viewers about federal procurement. Just a reminder, federal procurement is fair, open, and transparent. All suppliers have an equal shot of doing business with us. And if you ever do have any questions, you can always reach out to my office if we're within your region or the national info line. But once again, just thanks so much for the opportunity to speak with you all, and I wish you luck on navigating federal procurement.
Thank you so much, Alexander. Have a great day.